everyone, and welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
Vince, this is our 100th podcast.
Number 100.
How exciting is that?
Oh, pretty exciting.
Yeah? You look thrilled.
We have had at least 100 conversations. We meaning the team at Geekvolution.
That's right. Well, at least 100 conversations that we've recorded for half an hour or more and posted online. We've certainly had significantly more than 100 conversations.
We've been known to talk to each other outside of the microphone.
Well, considering the fact that we meet every week and we make multiple videos and there are, 52 weeks in the year, then it stands to reason.
We have conversations that you guys aren't privy to, like how much we do or do not like pudding.
Have we had that conversation? I know we've talked about Furbies and their cultural significance.
Yeah.
This is an inside joke that I don't think we've ever revealed on the podcast before.
What better time to bring it up than this podcast?
What better time on the Geekvolution Retrospective podcast? Vince, today's question comes from SSJ4 Monster, who asked me what we were going to do for the 100th podcast. And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, well, may I make this suggestion? He says, you should do a video about how your videos have made you understand the comic book world better, or how the feedback from your audience has affected your videos. And I thought, well, why don't we just kind of take that and roll it together and do a whole retrospective on what we've done for the first couple of years and how we started out, because I think we have some stories that a lot of our viewers haven't heard, and just kind of take that up to what we're doing now. And it seems like every week when Vince and I are trying to decide what we're going to do a podcast on, when we're looking through our list of topics, Vince always inevitably, well, not always, but a lot of times inevitably while we're looking, goes, we really should talk about
Furbies and their cultural relevance to Slinkies.
Is it always Slinkies?
I think it's Slinkies.
It's changed a few times.
And I don't know why I say that. I just think it's funny. I think it's because in my head, a Slinky's a little coil, and you could probably run some electric current through there, and therefore you will inevitably find some kind of coil inside of an electric object. So
Vince, you said it enough times, it came to a point where I was like, fine, let's just do it.
They have coils.
I couldn't figure out how we're going to do a half an hour on that, and I figured it would just degenerate into my anger of the lack of KB toy stores in America now.
See, well, we could talk about toys being, what do you call that? Where you have toys that are like so super advanced, and now you have all this hoo-ha and whatnot that's expensive and that has a million different components, and yet this Slinky's still there. You could still buy these simple yo-yos. You could still buy these toys that don't have a million components. So it's kind of interesting to me to think about how these advanced toys are relevant to these simple toys.
Oh, actually, yeah, you could do a whole topic on toy culture.
Yeah.
See, we've talked about I think we've done one on toy collecting, but I don't think we've talked so much on the difference between simple toys and advanced toys and how and how one
Take that microphone.
And how one is not necessarily, better than the other.
Yeah. See, I mean, a kid with a cardboard box that he just pulled out his new RC car from, and he ends up playing with the cardboard box.
Right.
I mean, what's the problem?
Well, that's also cool because it means he's using his, imagination.
Yeah. Who needs imagination?
So Vince, let's take Geekvolution back to the beginning and tell the viewers who haven't heard the story, and I'm sure some of you have, kind of how we got started and kind of what the channel was when we didn't have anybody paying any attention to us at all, and then kind of the just the makeup of it, how things evolved. Yeah.
MyGeekLife.net. That's what it was originally. It was mygeeklife.net, and it was supposed to be like MySpace for geeks, or Facebook, or whatever you wish to call it.
Right.
And bottom line is, it was a networking site for geeks. And
Vince and I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we didn't start it up. It was a guy we know named Ryan Flanagan, and the first one to hear about it was he was advertising for writing interns, I believe it was.
Right.
And he was looking for people who could produce any kind of geek-related content to go on his website.
This was back in 2007 when Vince and I were both at KU, and I was looking for a possible writing internship, and I fell into that.
Mm-hmm. And you got hired on, and then you got promoted.
Right. Yeah. Well, and let's use the word hired really loosely because it's not like I was paid. I mean, it was it was an unpaid internship that was at first I think Ryan advertised it as possibly an eventually paying thing, but the site didn't do well enough for that to ever work out. And Ryan, by the way, is the president of Myriad Tech LLC, and he's still doing. He's abandoned that project, but he's doing a lot of other social media type stuff.
Like if you go to geekvolution.com, you will find...
No, you won't find anything now. It's completely defined. Yeah. Actually, I think it's available now. I think I'm thinking about us actually eventually going ahead and getting it.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I don't think I think he's put that up. I haven't talked to him about it, but I think it's just available now.
Yeah. Not too long ago, if you went to geekvolution.com,
so please don't buy it.
Yeah. Don't do it unless you're giving it to us.
But you're right. Yeah, it said that it was Deadpooled, and if you go, not that Deadpool, and if you go, if you go to Myriad Tech LLC, you'll see a description of what it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And when it started, it was like Vince said, it was called mygeeklife.net. And I was one of like 4 or 5 different bloggers, and we were supposed to, blog about anything geek culture that we wanted to. We were supposed to put up a certain number a week, and we were supposed to do other things to kind of get in touch with, internet, social media, and geek culture. And it was actually a really good learning experience. I learned a lot from Ryan, and we were supposed to do things like edit a certain number of Wikipedia articles a week and things like that. It was really interesting. We had these cool assignments, and I also helped Ryan with a couple commercials and and things like that. And so when it started, I was mostly writing about TV shows and movies. I would write movie reviews, and there were a few TV shows I was watching, and I would always review them every week. And I was the most prolific writer there. I was writing probably 3, 4, 5 articles a week, and we had a couple other guys that when we started were writing 2 or 3. And then as time went on, people got busy, and they kind of fell out of it, and they kind of got. I think some people got kind of bored of it. We had one guy who was doing pretty much nothing but reviewing Nintendo games, and there was. I don't remember what the other 1 or 2 people did.
I remember there was a girl who was trying to write just about the geek experience. She did something on band geeks or.
Oh right, yeah. And then one of the best ones we had was writing about a lot of paranormal stuff. You remember that?
She was while I was there,
and she was really interesting. I actually hung out with her a couple times, and she knew all kinds of stuff about the history of paranormal culture, and she'd do all this research and write these really involved blogs. But anyway, as time went on and people kind of started falling off, I started looking for people to help me build it up, because I felt like I was pretty much the only person writing. It was pretty much me and the girl writing about paranormal stuff. And it just wasn't broad enough because the point of Geekvolution as a social networking site was that it was supposed to bring together people of various geek cultures.
Yeah. And that's why you had the paranormal. That's why you had the band geek girl. I'm not sure what she.
All these different things.
And that's why you had the Nintendo guy. That's why you have the movie guy.
And we had guest people come in and do different things too. Yeah. But it ultimately just never really picked up a lot of steam. And so Ryan finally kind of made me the editor of the blog, and let me, hire my own staff and pretty much do whatever I wanted to with it to help drive him traffic, so that he could focus on the social networking part of it. And that was really neat. And so I brought Vince on, and Vince was doing movie reviews, I think exclusively.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Basically, I started with movie reviews, and what I sold Ryan to get me on to the site was. He had me meet him at a little coffee shop. And
that's right, that was before he was even letting me hire my own people. You were the first person I tried to bring on, and he was like, I'm going to talk to him. And then I think after I got you on, he let me hire anybody I wanted to.
See, it's because he was so impressed with me that he thought Jay knows what Cap knows what he's doing.
That's right.
So,
I was barely Captain Logan at that point.
You can't possibly know that his name's Jay because because it's not like James Logan's on his book or anything.
Right.
But, so I met him at this little coffee shop, and I showed him the review of the Horror Fest movies at the time, and Ryan just kind of he shook his head. He says, "Yeah, I got you." You know what's interesting? Ryan's a really neat guy, and I called him up because after Geekvolution basically became defunct, I called him up at one point and asked him if I could use him as a reference and asked him if I could use him as kind of a work reference.
Oh, how long ago was that?
And I don't know. It's been over a year now.
Oh, okay, all right.
But
I haven't talked to him in a long time. That's why I was wondering.
I called him up and said, "Hey, this is Vince Haskins. I'm the guy from Geekvolution. You remember?" And then he just started laughing at me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I knew who you were the minute you opened your mouth." He said, "I recognize your voice. I watch your videos all the time." I was like, I'm glad to know that Ryan keeps up.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
And granted, it was a little while ago now, but
yeah, but I mean, that's cool. Even so,
that was a really neat thing to me. I mean, he started this, and we kept it going.
That's right. I mean, he started it as a different thing. The blog thing and us doing reviews and things was part of it, but it was mostly there to drive traffic for something else. And when that didn't work out, we kind of ran with it and turned it into what it is now. But it didn't start off as a video thing.
Yeah.
When it was pretty much me and you on the blog, because we were still doing the blog for a long time, even after the social networking site. It was still there, but it wasn't doing much traffic. It wasn't doing a lot, and so we kept the blog up, but it was mostly just the podcast. Yeah. And back then we had a really bad microphone. It didn't sound very good.
We still have that microphone.
Oh, do we?
It's in my desk. It's the one we were using. I'm pretty certain.
No, it was a black one. I bought it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I still have it somewhere.
We went to Best Buy specifically to get that microphone.
We did, yeah. And it was like an $11 microphone, and it was really bad. We had to really like crouch down around it.
Like we're huddling for warmth inside of our igloo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, every time we got together, I had to walk to Vince's house uphill both ways. It was just this is the glory days of Geekvolution. I want to back up for a second because I forgot to mention this. Like we said, at first it was called My Geek Life, and it had a tagline, which was "Join the Geekvolution." And at some point, I think while we were shooting a commercial, Ryan had this robot suit that he made. And if you go back to one of the very first videos posted at all, this was back when it was still the social networking site. You actually see Ryan wearing that robot suit. But we were shooting a commercial for it, and at one point during the day, he said, "I'm thinking maybe we should just call the thing Geekvolution." And I was like, "That sounds like a terrible name." I said, "It's good for a tagline, Ryan, but I don't think we should call it that." He just looked at me and said, "No, we're calling it that." And I was like, okay, and here I am. Here me and Vince are 3 years later. It's still Geekvolution.
I mean, I suppose you have to pay homage to the front runner.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a dumb sounding name anymore.
No, that's the thing. Is that
I've grown into it, and I think Ryan was right.
Yeah, join the Geekvolution. It's a good. You even have it on your shirt right now.
Yeah, it's good. It's because it describes exactly what we set out to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're bringing people together. I mean, even if it's not a social networking site anymore, even though you can socially network on our wearegeeksnotnerds.com.
Yeah, but that's a forum thing. It's certainly
Yeah.
We're certainly not trying to replace anything.
Yeah.
And that's a template.
Yeah.
That's a web's template is all that is.
It's not nearly as advanced as what Ryan had put together.
No, what Ryan made was really cool. It just, it was kind of ultimately impossible to compete with the big guns. So
yeah, I mean, once everybody's on one, but they kind of like, why do you need to go to another? But
no, he had a desktop application for it. You had this thing where you could make backgrounds, and it was really slick. It was really slick looking. I always thought that it never had quite enough stuff to do on it, but it was new. It was building.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'm sure had it continued, we would have had a lot more stuff on it than just
I mean, just look at the way
MySpace
and Facebook have evolved over the years. I mean, MySpace now has the biggest draw that it's ever had, and it's a big music thing that it has. So, I mean, MySpace has sort of become this dwelling place for artists, and Facebook has become this dwelling place for people who are obsessed with themselves. So, that's not fair. I have a Facebook account.
Well, when we started doing the videos, the first thing that I started doing was Superhero Rewind, and I actually put up 4 episodes of that before Vince and I ever did Geeks Not Nerds. And I just thought that it would be fun to kind of try to jump into this foray of video reviewing. I was listening to Brian Code Eric and a couple other people, and it just seemed like kind of a fun thing to do. But I wanted to do something that was a little bit more of a critical analysis than just a straight review. And I wanted to try to put my writing skills to use because I was just out of college. I think I was actually. Was I still in college when I started that? No, I was out.
Yeah,
and
I was still in college.
I was missing the work. That might sound really silly to some people, but like I was missing writing papers, and I wanted to do something with those skills because I enjoyed that. And of course, I'm a fiction writer, but I also enjoyed writing nonfiction, and I enjoy that more now than I ever used to. And so anyway, as I was doing it, one day I said to Vince, "Hey, you're a really funny guy, and we've been trying to do this Many Faces of Vincent Haskins show, which is pretty much just Vince being on screen being goofy, and that's a lot of fun to shoot." And I said, "Vince, what if we did a show that was like the podcast but shorter and was us on screen and let you show off your hilariousness?" And and he was like, "Okay, we'll try it."
I mean. Just to toss this in here, if you just wondered what is the Many Faces of Vincent Haskins, there is an episode that's been posted to Geekvolution. You can go back and look at it.
Actually, two.
There's two of them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's Working Out with Thinner Vince.
And then there was one before that.
And there's Cooking with Sick Vince.
Yes.
And those, I will warn you, there is a little bit of adult content in the. I think is it? No, I don't know. It's one of the two. I don't remember. There's a bird that's been flipped. I'm just saying, if you're a kid, don't go back and look. But if you're an adult, go for it.
Actually, the bird flipped was in fact in the Twilight video.
Oh wait, so
and that's a regular Geekvolution video, but it was kind of before we made the rules as strict as we have them now.
Yeah, so go back and check out Many Faces of Vincent Haskins. Yeah. Both of them, whatever. If you want to know what they are, that's what it is. But
yeah, they were a little bit more lewd than what we do now because we hadn't found our footing yet, and we weren't really catering to any kind of audience. We didn't know if anybody was ever going to watch us.
Yeah.
And as Superhero Rewind started to pick up a little bit, and as Geeks Not Nerds picked up a little bit, we kind of got together and said, let's be a little bit, let's be as all inclusive as possible.
Yeah. The podcast sort of started out with we wanted to be analytical. We wanted to be, but we were not above doing goofy things. I believe we even had a podcast where we just we did like impressions.
Yeah,
and we
that's
just
maybe
made jokes.
That was maybe not our proudest moment.
No, but it was fun and funny. But the podcast developed into an analytical show where we didn't do a lot of extra goofy things. Where the extra goofy things is basically where I get to exercise my improv skills. But because I was in two improv troupes, one at Allen County Community College and the other at Emporia State, and I had terrific experiences there. But Cap says, "Hey Vince, let's do some of this stuff on the show," and I just found this footing where I could do I didn't have to say a lot to elicit a laugh or at least elicit a snicker or something.
And that's what I've always admired about you.
It's good to use physicalities, and I feel like that's something that I can bring to our videos. That we can have our conversation, and that's really the guts of what the video is. If you don't have a decent rapport, if you don't have a decent topic, then your video's worthless. But I think there's a little bit of a flair that gets added in Cap's energy and in my silent movement.
We wanted there to be a reason for us to be on screen. You certainly have folks on YouTube who just have more of a blog style where it's just one person sitting in front of a camera and they're not trying to entertain you, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we wanted to do kind of something that was more of an entertainment than just us talking to a camera. We never really wanted it to be just one of us on camera. And in fact, that's the reason that Superhero Rewind wasn't. I felt like I didn't want to be the focus of that. I wanted what I was reviewing to be the focus, and that's why I went for the screenshots.
Not to knock the other guys that are doing it, but I always felt like just being the only person in your video, if it's just you in front of a camera, I always felt like it was a little self-serving. And you know why?
I'm over that in a way now that I wasn't back then, as I've seen more people better at it. But the ones that I really enjoy are the ones that try to bring something entertaining to it, where it's not just simply them talking like they would talk to anybody. Where there's more to it than that. And I mean, like, Manos sold me on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Manos. The canter of that guy's voice, I don't know. He's enjoyable to listen to.
And he's fun to watch. You can watch him on screen for 15 minutes, and all he does is sit on his couch, but he's engaging.
I think maybe the idea is that these people are the people who are good at this. They're saying, come watch my video because you're going to get something out of it. It's not just come watch my video because I'm going to tell you the way you should think.
Sure, right.
It's I am making a product that you are going to consume in some way.
And let me mention that I don't think everybody has to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with a personal blog style.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my cup of tea back then. And I become more loose about it as I've been watching videos. But understand, back then we were not YouTubers. We didn't watch videos.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to. I mean, one of the original things that we talked about is we had the podcast where we thoroughly explored ideas, and then we wanted to do this 10-minute video because, of course, you couldn't really do any more than 11 minutes at the time.
No, in fact, at the beginning, our GNNs were closer to 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. And the idea is that we were supposed to start topics and, just get you guys thinking. The people who came to watch us would sit there and they would be engaged for a minute, and then they would have to go out into the world and, decide for themselves about whatever we were talking about. And maybe that seems a little arrogant to say that we came up with something that may have been engaging or may have not been engaging.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's just a topic. It's just a couple of guys. This is our immediate gut reaction, and think about it a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily arrogant or not, because people can have their own opinion about whether or not the topic we came up with was worth talking about.
I always felt that Geekvolution is a way for me to use the stuff that I learned in school. I mean, I learned...
it keeps you in practice.
Yeah. I mean, I learned to use analytical skills from being an English major, from being a creative writing major, from getting into a bunch of workshops and just really ripping the guts out of something and analyzing it and figuring out what's good about it and what's not.
And this is going to sound weird, Vince, but I don't know if you had this experience. I fell passionately in love with that process.
I think I cannot divorce myself from it. Like, if I enjoy a movie, it's got to be because it's good, or it's because I found something that's interesting or unique, or I cannot wholly separate myself from the way that I was in school.
You have tons and tons of people now, of course, doing reviews because they've seen other people do reviews and it sounds like fun. I never considered being a reviewer, trying to criticize things. I never thought of it until I went to school and went through that creative writing process and criticizing other people's works in workshop, and that is reviewing, and I feel like we learned as much about criticizing work as we did about making the work, and I enjoyed that almost, if not as much as I enjoyed the writing, fiction writing itself.
One of the things that I always felt was a bit of a shame was so many people I'd try to find reviews of things on YouTube, and what I would find is a guy that would say, "Oh my God, it was so cool. There was like an explosion, and he punched a guy, and there was a chick naked, and somebody threw up." And I always felt, I would see stuff like that, and it seems like there's too much of that, and not enough Manos, not enough review spot. You know what I mean? Just to go with the, not enough Brown Coat Eric, because these are the guys that are immediately on my mind because we're not too far off the coattails of who reviews the reviewers.
Yeah. Well, and also, it's not just because they're guys we work with. There's a reason these are guys we work with.
Yeah, I mean, there are interesting people, and there are interesting ways to make videos, but when we first started, we were finding things that we thought were a little on the side of not as good as they should be, and the idea was to raise the bar of content on YouTube.
If we could.
Yeah, I mean, do what you got to do. You try to produce a product that's worth viewing, essentially, is what we were trying to do. We had a viewer in mind.
Yeah. And this isn't to step on anybody's toes. There's no reason that you can't just get in front of a microphone and talk about and say what you think about something. But yeah, but I felt, as you did, Vince, that there weren't enough people giving well thought out criticism.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
people who had really thought of it, who had really weighed the good and the bad, and really got objective about it.
When we first started out, I'd never thought of YouTube as a journal. I'd never thought of YouTube as just keeping a collection of thoughts or responses to the things that you've had during the day, and apparently a lot of people do that.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it is. So you can't surf YouTube and expect everything to be professional, because it doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
it's just that we wanted to make something that was a little bit more professional. Now, I'm not saying that what we do is especially professional. Part of what we do is really in our house shooting.
Yeah, we don't have a studio. We don't have a desk where Cap runs down to and throws something to the audience like a note card, and then I play them on with a guitar or something.
And as we've continued going on, we've been trying to upgrade the apparatus a little bit here and there as much as we can, and making the quality of the work better. But I don't want to act like we're trying to elevate ourselves high above our listeners and our viewers or anything like that. We're just a couple of guys just like everybody else listening to us, unless they're a couple of girls.
In which case, they're not all that far removed anyway.
And we've tried to make this a dialogue. We're talking to you, but we're talking with you.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said earlier, we're not a social network, but a community has been built. And we didn't start the community.
No. We
just came into the community, and I think we've helped it grow. And I think that's our. If we've accomplished anything, it's been that. And the guys from Who Reviews the Reviewers said that about Who Reviews the Reviewers, that it helped to build a community, and that was the nicest thing anybody could say about us. And I'm not tuning my own horn when I say that. That happened somewhat on accident. I mean, like, I had hoped that maybe that would happen. That we would. It wasn't as much. Okay, we always talked about building a following.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of glad that it's become something different than that. You know what I mean? It isn't just people who think we're awesome. It's people who we talk with. I've met so many awesome people through this. Some of my best friends now are people I've met on YouTube who I've never met face to face.
I mean, there are happy accidents. You got on YouTube because you wanted to create a following. I think what Cap had originally said to me at one point, and maybe I'm showing one of his cards that I ought not say, but Cap said, we develop a following, we get a group of people that think we're interesting, and I have this novel I'm writing, and these are people that could potentially buy my book. And
well, I thought it was the backdoor. It was the backdoor method, and I don't think that.
Am I overstepping my boundaries there?
No, I don't, and I don't think that was a conniving thing.
No, that's the thing, is that in my mind, if you have a product and you deem it worthwhile and you want to make it available to other people, then how else do you do that other than developing a following? Yeah,
well, here's the thing. I'll just lay this out there, and now that you've, as you said, showed my hand, it was the Ace of Clubs, by the way. I spent 2 years trying to find a publisher for my book,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't. And I started doing the movie reviews because it was fun. I didn't start the movie reviews thinking I was going to build this big following and I was going to sell my book. When people started watching, I started thinking maybe that was a possibility.
That's the thing. It's a very fluid. It just flows into each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and the thing, that's fair to say. And let's face it, I've been trying to sell my book on the channel. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. I mean, we had Geekvolution
I've never had one person say, "Hey, how dare you try to sell me something?"
Yeah. Well, that's
and Manos does that too. And Manos has been trying to build a following for a long time, and he's selling his products to them. And guess what? A bunch of people love Red Knight. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. And especially there's nothing wrong with that, considering that there are so many people out there that want to get into the business. So how could a person fault you for wanting to do that? I mean, in my mind, as soon as I stop wasting time and get
and there's so much competition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, but it's very difficult. Just being a guy who doesn't know anybody in a business to just break into a business these days.
I mean, we have our mainstreamers, and then we have our indie people, and our indie people are fighting among themselves to get things created,
right?
And they have to fight against an entirely different stream of people known as the mainstream, trying to get their stuff. I mean, it's a difficult business to get into either way, whether it be film, comics, or novels.
Well, I had a few other things I wanted to cover on this. We're already at half an hour, so I think this is just going to be a longer podcast.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what the topics we cover now versus what we were covering at the beginning. We have really become comic guys.
Yeah. And
that's not where we were at the beginning.
Now, when we started, we wanted to be, I think, primarily, I think we wanted to be film. I think that's what we wanted.
Yeah, we pretty much wanted to review movies, and we've always dabbled in that.
And then we thought, there's this sort of, even though there are comic reviewers, we sort of thought that there was a little bit less representation for them than there was for other stuff.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the comic reviews is Vince and I were really apprehensive about reviewing comics straight away, and I think you still kind of are. Like you don't like to review single issues. You want a story to be done before you talk about it.
I don't feel like I have enough to say about a single issue. I feel like when I review a single issue, it would be entirely. I'm going to talk about the dialogue. I'm going to talk about how these people were presented, and then that's about it, because I don't know where the thing's going. I can't really figure out whether or not this is an effective whole.
Yeah, and part of the reason that I stopped doing straight critical reviews of comics is because I would have that problem. I would talk about how great a particular issue was, and then when the whole thing was done, it changed my opinion of the various issues, and so that's a lot of why now I do more recommending books I think you'll enjoy, as opposed to trying to tell you what you shouldn't pick up.
And for me, if I read one issue, I'm sort of a completist. I can't get it out of my head. If I read one issue, I'm going to want to read the other ones. Like, for example, I picked up a book tonight, and I thought, am I going to buy this? And then I turned to the back and I thought, if this is a one shot, I might spend the money and waste the time reading it. And I'm like, nope, this is the first of a series. Don't care. And I tossed it back on the shelf. And I thought, and I was like, that's a really crappy thing for me to do.
Yeah, because you're missing out on some great stories when you do that.
I mean, it depends. It was like an impulse buy. I thought, am I going to try this? I'd never heard of it before.
Sure.
It was DC, so I felt like, if I'd done that to an indie book, I'd have felt really bad. But considering it's DC, I didn't feel too bad.
But I find myself, these days especially, enjoying a lot of miniseries more than I do monthlies. And Marvel's been putting out a bunch of miniseries, and some people complain about it. I like it.
I like miniseries. I prefer miniseries.
I really dig complete stories that don't take me 30 years to finish. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, monthlies are bad or anything, because obviously I read a lot of them, but...
I still like my Walking Dead. I still like my Ultimate Universe as much as it pains me to actually try to read it anymore. But my miniseries is where it's at for me. I mean, I want to read my whole story, and I don't want to... I feel like if I review a sixth, because that's about how long a miniseries is, if I review a sixth of it, one issue, then I'm not considering the rest of it. I mean, I need to review the whole thing in order to review the story.
But to get back to what we were talking about, there are a couple ways to look at this. Kind of like the way we were talking about before. You can look at it as playing to an audience, and you can look at it as having an ongoing conversation with a particular group of people. And we have our audience, but they're also people that we have a constant dialogue with.
Yeah.
And so what happened over time, and I think Rewind kind of started this, because folks who enjoyed Rewind would then maybe dabble in some of our other videos, and they would enjoy it when we talk about comic book stuff, some of them, because they would happen to know comic book stuff because they watch Superhero Rewind. And I think that as more of those kinds of folks started coming on board, we started tailoring our shows more toward the superhero and comic book stuff.
Yeah. That really answers the guy's question.
Yeah.
How is it that the viewers have affected our...
In every way.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, when we started making these things, we had a viewer entirely in mind. We wanted to create a product that was worth viewing. And when your audience tells you, we want more of this, you tend to give that to them.
Yeah, and that wasn't a problem. We enjoyed doing it.
I mean, because we didn't have to compromise anything that we were trying to achieve.
Not at all.
It was like, well, we like using our analytical skills. We can still do that, but let's focus on comic books. Mm-hmm. And, one thing that I think is interesting is that I think when we were early on, it was a lot of reviewing. And as we got later, it was more conceptual and more cultural.
Theoretical conversations.
So
yeah.
I like the way we've gone. It's like, how do things work together within our culture, within our pop culture?
I do miss reviewing stuff with you, though.
No, I think we should. I think we should review more.
And we're talking. By the way, actually, we've pretty much decided we're going to start doing more new movie reviews on Geeks Not Nerds. GNN's not going to become just movie reviews, but we are planning to see more stuff and review them some on GNN, and that gives us more topics. You know, and we still get tons and tons of good topics from people, but the channel is growing faster now than it ever has been. Which, by the way, thanks to everybody. That's really cool that's been happening. We've been gaining about 80 to 100 in a week lately for the last 2-3 months, and so we've got new folks who haven't gone back and looked at the whole library of videos, because why would you? It's 550 something videos, and it's a ton of videos, and so people are starting to ask us questions we've answered before on the shows. And I'm having a hard time remembering what we've talked about.
Yeah. So if there ever appears a rant that seems highly similar to one that happened to have come before, sorry.
And so, I'm not saying that every question we get is rehashed. We do get a lot of interesting original stuff. But I think that also just for the sake of variety, it's maybe time to get back into reviewing a little bit also.
Yeah. I think, and just in case you're saying, whoa, I like Geeks Not Nerds the way it is, we still have the podcast, which is the same thing
but longer.
I mean, the podcast is basically it's designed to thoroughly explore a topic. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can come down on it and say that it is or is not true. So essentially, Geeks Not Nerds the podcast is achieving the same thing that Geeks Not Nerds is. We've just explored it more.
And I think it's interesting to touch real quick on the difference between doing something on audio and doing a video and doing a visual, because doing the podcast this way allows us to kind of lay back and really think about stuff without worrying too much about what we look like on screen.
Yeah.
And so it being longer, it's kind of I think that we have sometimes even better conversations that way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, here I am scratching my back throughout probably 30% of this entire podcast, and I'm thinking pretty well.
It's more relaxed.
Yeah.
And when you're having, I don't want to act arrogant and say everything we do is very deep and intellectual, but we try to get under the surface as much as possible, and when you're trying to delve, you want to be relaxed.
And that's why we use the word try. I mean, we're not saying that we're deep and we know things that God doesn't know. We're saying, we're trying to... That's a quote from John Leguizamo.
I was wondering what that was, because I was like, if you're making that up, that's got to go on a T-shirt.
John Leguizamo was quoting his uncle, and he said, "John, I know things that even God doesn't know." And
I like John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo. If you haven't seen it, check out Freak. It's really good.
You've told me about it.
I don't think it's available on DVD or on Netflix or anything.
Okay, all right.
But I found it online.
So I'll never get to see it.
I found it online back in the Stone Age, and so I'll let you watch it. It was like free on like Singing Fish before Singing Fish disappeared. But so
I'm sorry, I was just laughing because I forgot about that.
But so. Where were we going with this? Oh yeah, we're not trying to say that we are or are not deep. We're saying we're trying to do something that's I suppose by trying to achieve a certain goal, you're trying to better yourself in some way.
Well, we just try to explore stuff instead of just talking about stuff on the surface.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's what we've always attempted to do.
Yeah, I think that people lower their expectations, and then what they gets lowered. So the product that is subject to the lowered expectations will inevitably lower itself because they know they don't have to try as hard, and it's just this vicious cycle. So we're trying to, because I think there are people out there. I think there are a lot of people out there that want to expect more, but condition themselves not to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The bar has been lowered, and who are they to try to raise it? And I don't think like that.
So we're calling out to all of our geek brethren saying, hey guys, we know you can think this way, let's do it.
Raise the bar a little bit. I gotta tell you, I don't think I've ever said this, but I'll come out and say this now. I was scared to death when we started Who Reviews the Reviewers.
Really?
That we were gonna get lynched for that. I mean, who are we to say that we're such great reviewers that we can judge other people's reviews?
I mean, one of the things that I like about Who Reviews the Reviewers, or more so that you said about it, was that you said it's novices reviewing novices. And
yeah, exactly.
And I don't know whether or not you ever said that on the channel, but you said that to me, and I like that a lot. And here's something that I think is evidence of why we are allowed to do Who Reviews Reviewers. If you watch a lot of these shows like Top or like Iron Chef or whatever that stuff is,
Top Model,
they'll have somebody on the show who has no prowess to really judge what's going on. But like for example, Mike Tyson's going to suddenly review this guy's ability to cook, or the chick from the Scorpion King, which happened.
Really?
Yeah, the girl that played the leading actress in the Scorpion King, Kelly Hugh, I think she was one of the guests on.
Now I would buy George Foreman.
I would.
If George Foreman went on, I would not complain about that. I think he has enough cooking chops. He should be able to judge that show.
I use his grill all the time. But I'm not saying that Kelly Hugh or Mike Tyson are incapable of achieving this analytical.
No, but they're there because they're famous for something else.
Yeah, that's they're not there because they're good cooks. They're there because they're famous and they've been in movies or they've been in the boxing ring and people know who they are.
Okay, yeah.
But so just having people sit around and say, all right, we're going to review these people's ability to review, say, 007 or X-Men Utopia, then I don't see anything wrong with that. And apparently they didn't see anything wrong with that because we had a lot of people who had terrific experiences. And you know what? Laser Dude will forever be etched into my mind. I know he got
a lot of those guys.
And Laser Dude was just the one that jumped into my mind immediately. I liked his style a whole lot. And, and of course, we still have yet to do the podcast with
Fusion.
With Fusion, and that's coming.
Yeah.
So now that I have internet, everything's going to be easier.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't talked to Fusion yet. He was out of state for a long time.
That's true.
Which is why we haven't done that yet. So I'm not sure if he's back. I haven't talked to him. But anyway, yeah. But just as you said, I wanted it to be novices reviewing novices. It wasn't us saying that we know everything about this. It was just more of this attempt to try to raise the bar as much as possible. It's not us telling you what good reviews are. It's let's get together and discuss that.
Yeah,
you know what are good reviews? Let's see if by putting people in a competition we can figure that out. And I think that it's not us making people better. It was the competition making people better. Yeah. And I mean, and a lot of the guys who went through Who Reviews the Reviewers said they became better reviewers by the end of it. I thought they all did too, and.
By trying to produce a better product, by trying to produce our product, by trying to better yourself, you better your abilities, you better your own product. And, like, for example, there's a comedian, I think I may have said this on the podcast before, but there's a comedian named Louis C.K. And what that guy said about his own stand-up routines was when he would start his next bit, excuse me, that didn't make any sense, but he would have a routine. From front to finish, from first bit to last bit, that would be a solid routine. And what would he do for his next routine? He would start it with the ending bit of the previous routine.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So night number one,
trying to chump himself.
So night number one would be his effort to have to have bettered himself from night number 0, and then night number 2 was better than night number 1. It's just this tireless effort of trying to achieve something and to better yourself. So my voice is getting hoarse.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to throw out real quick is just the difference between the amount of content and the number of shows we used to make versus what we're making now, and the reason that we keep coming up with different stuff and we keep making a lot of the old stuff that we were always making and we kind of thrown it all together. These days Geekvolution isn't just me and Vince. Sarah is on Trexperts and she has her own action figure review show now, and Manos is on Yearbook, and he and I do other videos sometimes, and Eric is on a lot, and it's the idea of Geekvolution was always well-roundedness. Was this kind of this big hodgepodge of different kinds of geek stuff. And I think it's more...
Even dating back to when it was started as mygeeklife.net.
Yeah, that's what we wanted it to be, and it was hard because it was only, 2 guys, but I think it's become that much more now than it ever used to be. even though it's still, a lot of it is still, comic and superhero type stuff. But what I wanted to say real quick is that a lot of what we do, as much as we do now, is because we surprisingly have people paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, back in the day, I was doing Superhero Rewind just to see if anybody cared. And as some people started caring, I started making more of it and more often. And as Geeks Not Nerds began to take off, and I always say this, but I have to credit Eric for some of this because he did a video on us early on and let some people know about us, and then that kind of got the ball rolling. And so, I don't know, I will ever be indebted to Eric for helping us out at the beginning, and also the review spot too. He a year after that featured us on his website for Channel of the Month, and a lot of people found out about us then that didn't know about us at the time. And it's just as we've continued to grow, I always have a million ideas in my head, and I always have, and I never used to know what to do with them. I'd be like, well, I can make that, but what would be the point? I mean, you write fiction for yourself, but do you really want to review stuff for yourself? It's kind of it just always
apparently the answer is yes.
I just kind of a weird thing to do for me in my head. I didn't, because I could just go have a conversation with someone, and it was kind of the same thing.
Which is essentially what we do.
Yeah.
So Cap's instinct was, I'm going to review something, but I'm going to just do it with another person, and let's put it on camera.
Right.
And
yeah, that's exactly right.
Who better to do it than with your goofy English creative writing major friend?
But I just wanted to once again express my appreciation for people, keeping up and enjoying a lot of the stuff that we do, because most of the ideas that we've tried have worked in some way or another, and
people have gotten a kick out of it in some way.
I never thought I was going to get to do Counting Crypto Freaks. That was an idea I had even before Superhero Rewind, and I just didn't know if it was a good idea. I didn't know if anybody would care, and I started doing it, and I put out a pilot. I didn't think I'd make more. People asked me to make more, and I kept doing it, and it's one of my most enjoyable things I do. I mean, for me, I really enjoy making that show. And so anyway, that's a lot of why we make so much stuff now.
Yeah. Do you want to do rants on this one just to say for old time's sake?
Yeah, I mean, if people don't care, they can turn it off.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I'm sorry this is so long. Vince and I get to reminiscing, and
yeah, apparently there was quite a bit to talk about with the evolution of Geekvolution.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
the evolution of the Geek Revolution into the Geekvolution.
Indeed, and by the way, I also want to apologize if this was somewhat self-serving. Somebody asked it. We thought it would be fun to do, and anyway, I apologize if it was boring.
No.
Go ahead, Vince. Do your rant.
So here's my rant. I have to. It's not like you didn't know that that's what was coming from what Cap said. But anyway, here's my rant. I get tired of the word just, and I don't mean just as in justice. I mean the word just. Just there's no extension to this word.
Vince is a
just
vigilante,
the word just.
And he is tired of justice. Oh, actually, I think vigilantes want justice, don't they?
This is true.
Yeah, I'm tired of stupid. Go ahead.
But I get tired of people using the word just, and because it's a filler word, and most of the time it means nothing. And for example, I was watching somebody play Arkham Asylum, and there's a character in there that says he was just killed everybody in the room. I'm like, wait, if you were to read that, you could potentially construe it as he just killed everybody in the room. So what I'm trying to say is, when writing something, I've seen a lot of people overuse the word. I suppose I could extend it to the word well as well. But
well,
yeah, exactly. They think that they need to add some kind of pause in there, so they put the word well in, or they put the word just in. And instead of having an actor be able to deliver a line well, they say, well, he got his finger caught in the pickle slicer, and now he doesn't have an index finger. And wow, why did you need to say well? There is nothing in there that says the actor couldn't have said, there's a pause. See, it's that easy.
I hope you're not extending that to David Tennant.
It depends. I'm saying that you can do things well.
Because that's one of his staples, and I love that. You know he's about to say something funny anytime he does that.
Well, here's the deal. you can say just, you could say well, you can use these things well. I mean, like, for example, man, I'm saying well a lot in this sentence, but I'm not saying it in the way that people that I'm complaining about it.
It's just, I don't even know. It's just, I don't know.
Well, like, for example, I was in a lot of creative writing classes. What?
Laugh at that. Thanks.
But I was in creative writing classes, and I read somebody's play, and it was a good play. He had a lot of interesting characters. There's a lot of funny things going on, but he used the words "well" and "just" at the beginning of sentences so many times.
Yeah, well, it's especially bad in the beginning of a sentence. Yeah.
And I would say to him, I caution you. It got around to me. We did our round robin review, and it got around to me. And what I said to the guy was, I caution you on the use of the words well and just. And the teacher violently shook his head. He's like, yes, And I thought, well, at least that guy agrees with me. That's nice. But I'm just saying, this would be so much more, like, this product would shine for the piece that it is if you didn't have so much filler.
Right.
And you don't need these words in there to indicate that there's a pause. And if you don't think that the actor's going to get it, which is sort of undervaluing the actor's importance to the piece. But
it's also, I think, simply just a crutch for people who are nervous about writing dialogue.
I think you're right. I mean, you're obviously saying that I want them to take some time to deliver this line. And it's supposed to be comedic, or it's supposed to be stressful.
I'm not sure it's that so much as simply people say these words so they go at the beginning of sentences. I mean, I think it's that simple. I'm not sure that they're even trying to indicate pauses and stuff, or they're trying to emphasize anything. I think more often when somebody starts a sentence with "well," it's them thinking that they're doing something realistic. People say it's and I used to fall into this trap a lot. I think sometimes I still do. It's the same thing as putting the person's name that a character is talking to too many times in their dialogue. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Well, like if I'm talking to you and I keep saying da 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 Vince, da 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 Vince, you don't need to keep saying the name of the person that you're talking to over and over again if there's only two people in the room. But it's something we do because we think people do it a lot, and we get nervous about writing dialogue.
I think that's a good point. I'd considered that when I was in school, but it's been so long. I just remembered that, and I saw it just killed everyone in the room. What?
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means nothing because it's filler.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to argue about it. I would make the case that that's a character being nervous thing. Yeah. It could have even been an ad lib. Yeah, it may not have even been in the script. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You will hear people say that, and I'm not saying that dialogue is good just because it's realistic and you've heard people do it. But if the point is Batman's making these guys nervous, it might be okay. You know what I mean? It's a stutter. It's not the word "just" can be part of a stutter. So I'm not sure that example is that good of an example. But
I'd written a play at one point.
Sorry, I'm not trying to break your rant.
That's fine. I'd written a play at one point. It wasn't necessarily the greatest play ever, whatever.
No, it was.
It was. But I had a character who's sort of a professional woman. She was supposed to be able to take charge of this room, and the actress would never recite the line the way that it was written. She kept adding the word "just" into it.
Oh.
And she added it at the beginning of the sentence. So there was every so often I wanted to go up on stage and say, why are you making her less powerful?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to add the word "just" in
Maybe
there?
you should have.
And granted, I wasn't directing the piece, so I was co-directing, so I was the official second director, but I was the official first writer. So.
See, you should have made the director sick, and then you could have done that.
Yeah, you see, I knock him out, and then I go direct. But that really annoys me. Like, you don't have to add the... I understand that people say it in real life, but real life, or stories are real life with the boring parts cut out. That's what Hitchcock says, and that's the important thing to remember when you're writing.
Well, it's also, I agree with that, but it's also as simple as people doing annoying, repetitious things makes them less interesting and involving and sympathetic.
Yeah. And she did, I believe she did it right in the middle of a scene where she was trying to take charge. So going, just do this. It's giving them the power. It's saying that they're not going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, what's your rant now that I've done for like my 2-minute, 15-minute rant?
My rant is also a language thing. I want to talk just a little bit about misuse of grammar, but specifically punctuation. And this is something, of course, that I think is caused a lot by internet speak, tech speak. Vince and I talked about this a lot. Our classic one, and this podcast isn't available anymore, but our classic example of tech speak messing with everything is the sudden abbreviation of Mountain Dew back in the day. When that started, we're like, wow, we got to shorten everything. Heaven forbid we have language, and this is something that you don't just see on the internet and the blogosphere, but it's certainly seeping in dramatically into published work. And I would make the case that either editors are more lax than they used to be, or editors think they're doing their jobs and they don't, and they're not taught correctly. One of those two things is happening. And I'm being ambiguous. I'm seeing this in fiction, I'm seeing it in newspapers, I'm seeing it in magazines, yada, yada, yada. Whatever it is, I've seen it. And the biggest glaring things, look, people are going to make an occasional mistake here and there. I'm not that dude that sits there with a red pen and with everything I read. But when you see 2 or 3 mistakes in the same article of a published work, it's a problem. Yeah. It's a problem because it's unprofessional. And you have people these days who don't think that language means anything, and you're never going to convince me of that. That's what I went to school for. I'm sorry, and so it's that there are rules in language for a reason, and they're not all that hard.
The way people would converse with each other is how we communicate. It's how we impart ideas upon another person.
Thank you. We need a standard of how we're going to communicate so that we don't misconstrue what people say, even in what we're writing. So here are my 2 big examples, and there are many other things I could say. We could do a whole podcast on it. But the first is misplaced apostrophes in words that end in S. I see this all the time. When you have a word that ends in S, especially a plural word, well, not just that ends in S, a plural word. Putting an S on it is what makes it plural. You don't also need an apostrophe. If it's a word that gets plural when you put an S on it, you don't need apostrophes. Generally denote possession. So unless your desks own something, you shouldn't put an apostrophe before the S. There are some exceptions to this, and I think this is why people get confused and they accidentally do this. But the exception is like letters. If you're writing that there are multiple A's or multiple N's or S's, that you put an apostrophe there.
What about abbreviated words?
What do you like? What?
Like I can't think of anything now. But just think of an abbreviated word, and you're saying a bunch of those things. Would you put an apostrophe after the period?
I don't think so, but I can't think of a word that I can't picture it right now because I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, like LA's. Say for example, there's a.
Yes, I think so. I think that has an apostrophe, but I'm not entirely positive. I'm just saying, like a normal word, you don't put an apostrophe. That's all I'm talking about.
Oh, the Desk family owned many things.
and the other one is the classic words that are spelled the same but are different words. You got all kinds of people who don't know they're theirs or they're twos. And are confused about contractions. And that's another apostrophe thing, where somebody will put an apostrophe at the end of a word that sounds like a contraction but is not, and then they think the apostrophe goes there, but it doesn't.
You know, one that really bothers me? Have and of.
Yeah.
Could have. No. Could have.
I was going to avoid that one because that's the one I usually bring up. But yeah, and that's the contraction problem. That's yet a third one. It just bugs me that people aren't, and I don't think it's always everybody's fault. I think that people aren't being taught where words come from. When you say
the dictionary.
Yeah. The contraction could have. Like I could have gone to school. That's a contraction. That's not the words could of. That's the words could have. So you could say I could have gone, or you could say I could have gone. And if you say could have, that's contraction, apostrophe VE. Anyway, I'm not trying to give an obnoxious grammar lesson. I'm just saying that these are simple things that should be that should be taught and should be used correctly.
Yep. No, I agree.
And again, I don't go around correcting people all over the internet. And I don't go, things like that. But at least in published works, like
you're not a vigilante who corrects people.
No, although I'm thinking, I'll talk about that project later. There is a project I'm working on about that, but don't worry, I will not be going in anybody's homes and attacking them because they don't know how to do their contractions correctly. But anyway, I don't know. I didn't mean to preach about grammar, but it is sad to see language degenerate the way it is, and I think part of what frustrates me about it is that the more I see it, the more I start making those mistakes.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, if there's a degradation in language, then people are like, I notice that I start talking like people the more of that particular kind of person I'm around.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm around a lot of thick accent, like heavy Midwesterners, I start to talk like those guys a lot. If I'm around a lot of like urbanites, I start to talk like them a bunch. And like, for example, I think if you'd approached me 3 months ago, I would probably say the word speak instead of talk. I start to talk like them because I'm starting to talk like the people that I'm around a bunch.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening to our 100th podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
And we'll see you again next